Hello, this is Mrs. Smeckens, and we've been working on collecting details about characters. Authors develop characters across an entire story. Authors tell us what a character does, says, and thinks. Now, we can just read that surface information and understand the story, but we could also collect all the details for one character, track those details from beginning to end, and learn a little more about a character. And authors want us to do this. Readers need to collect details and think about characters. And one thing we can figure out about characters is what's their personality. The author never tells us what a character's personality is. The author doesn't come right out and tell us a character's trait. But as a reader, we know we can collect these details, put them together, and figure out, well, this is what this character is like. This is what he's like on the inside. These are his qualities, his personality. And remember, personality doesn't change. Character traits, the same trait he has at the beginning, he has those same traits at the end of the text. But in the last lesson, we learned that characters can change, not their personality, but what they know, what they believe. Characters can learn things. And so when we first talked about this idea of character change, we said, all right, what you have to do is look at how did the character act, speak, and think at the beginning. And then look at how that same character acts, speaks, and thinks at the end. And figure out, so why did he change? What did he learn? In the story, what was the problem? Who were the other characters? What did this character learn in this story? Okay, so we did that in the last lesson. Now, that is going to get us to theme. You've heard of theme. Some people call it central message. Some people call it life lesson or the lesson the author's trying to teach us. Okay, these are all the same thing, but the answer you gave for what did the character learn isn't the theme, but that's going to get you to the theme. Oh yeah, that's the baby step to get you to theme. How do we do this? And is there just one theme? No. We can learn a lot of different things from characters. And that's the reason we read. That's the reason authors write stories about characters, is so that their readers can learn things to become better people, learn about the world, learn about people, and become a better person themselves. We can grow as a person, not because that problem happened to us, but because we can learn from what the character figured out. Okay, so authors want their readers to grow, to learn life lessons. So authors on purpose put a message in their stories. This message, this lesson is not stated. You're not going to find it with green reading voice details. No, you're going to have to really look at how did the character change and what's the author trying to tell us because of that character's change. What can we learn from that character? So we're talking about lessons, messages, themes. Okay. So one of the big differences between just writing down how a character changed before and after is the actual way you write it, the wording you use. When you write a theme, you don't want to mention the characters. You don't want to mention their names. You don't want to mention the setting. You don't want to mention the problem. No, because a theme is like a step back from the nitty-gritty details of a story. You step back and we can kind of reflect on that character's problem and grow from it. We as the reader. It's called a universal theme, meaning you don't want to say that Jimmy learned da-da-da-da-da. you want to take what Jimmy learned and turn it around and say, people should, like any person should. See what I mean by universal, global sentence? We don't want to say, it's bad when Susie, and we name the character. No. We want to say, one must do this. We want to keep it generic or broad. So you don't mention character names. You don't mention setting. You don't mention specific problems. You keep it broad so that the reader can learn this lesson and apply it in all parts of their life. Okay, there's not one lesson. We don't want to name characters. Okay, we're not trying to guess the answer. There's a lot of different ways, a lot of different possible lessons to be learned. Okay, and readers all kind of get different lessons out of stories, but you need to be able to back it up with proof, with evidence. All right, we'll talk about that later. But just this idea that the author is trying to get me to understand something. The author believes something about life and wants me to learn this lesson about life. All right, so the author believes that's going to be helpful in writing a theme. And these kind of key words where it's people or one or someone, we want to keep it broad and generic. Okay, so now I want to go back to theme. I want to use that word, theme, central message. These all kind of mean the same thing, lesson, same thing. Okay, so you have there on the screen the word theme. And I know the M and the E are capitalized, but you see the word theme, right? Okay, now watch. If I separate that out, what a theme is, even though we learned it through a character and what a character had to do, the reader takes what happened to the character and realizes, oh, that's the message. That's the lesson the author's teaching me. Theme isn't specific to that story. Theme is broader, more generic. People should what? What does the author believe people should? Someone could what? What does the author believe someone could do? See what I mean by a more generic, broad message? It's not about this story. We learned it in this story, but it's about people in general. Okay, so when we talk about theme, message, life lesson, it is a sentence, and we get the information we need to write that sentence from what the character learned, how he was, how he's different now, what he learned. That's going to be helpful in figuring out how to write this sentence. Okay, so now I want to take us back to some of the texts that we've recently read. Your task after the last lesson was to reread the kids' table, okay? And track Jimmy. Tell me what Jimmy did, said, and thought at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. And then I wanted you to kind of start to do this. How did Jimmy change? Tell me what Jimmy was like at the beginning. Tell me how Jimmy was like at the end. And what did Jimmy learn? Because this, not the theme, but the theme is going to come out of this. Okay, so on your screen is kind of a shortened version of what I've got written here. So at the beginning, Jimmy was very frustrated with all the little kids at Thanksgiving who were just being silly and hanging on him and just wouldn't leave him alone. All right, he was very frustrated. Okay, but by the end, he really enjoyed being with the kids. He loved entertaining the kids. Okay, whoa. What caused the change? What did Jimmy learn? Okay, so this is not the theme. You can't get to theme if you don't know what he learned. So first figure out just what did Jimmy, this character, learn? Then we're going to think, what could everybody learn about life? Okay, so again, on your screen, I say that Jimmy learned that the kids weren't happy at the kids' table, but he wasn't either. He wasn't happy where he was at the adult table. He learned that this isn't good and this isn't, they're not having fun, I'm not having fun. So now let's take this phrase, the sentence starter, the author believes that. So what does the author want us to learn through Jimmy? But we're not going to use the word Jimmy at all right? But Jimmy learned a lesson. And what is it that we could learn or any person could learn? And so one way to say this, there's no answer. There's lots of ways to say this, but one way to say this is what the author believes that whenever someone or one could help kids just be kids, he should do it. If you could just let a kid, be silly, be a kid, you should do it. The author believes that, now keep in mind, we're not actually going to use this when we write our theme sentence, but this helps us understand that we don't have to believe this, but we're saying, I think the author believes this. The author might believe that whenever you can help a kid just be a kid, you should do it. So I'm not actually going to use this sentence starter when I write my theme. I'm only using it to help me think like the author. Okay, let's look at this in a different way. Same characters, same story, and we look at what he learned. And, he was unhappy playing with all the kids, and he wanted to be then at the adult table. But in the end, he realized, well, he didn't like the adult table either, did he? And so he went back to the kids' table. So what could a person, anybody learn from Jimmy's error, his mistake, his lesson? Well, I think the author is trying to tell us that people should be careful what they wish for, because you thought you wanted that adult table, but that wasn't any good either. The author believes that people should be careful what they wish for. This is a theme. This is a theme. This just gets us started. What does the author believe about people? But when we write it, we don't actually use that part. Okay? We'll edit that part out. Okay, so that was based on Jimmy and the kids' table. Let's look back at that story, Charles. Remember Lori, who was really Charles, the kid who acted up in kindergarten, okay? And then the mom who went to meet the teacher, and the teacher said, we don't even have a Charles. Okay, so let's look back at the details that we learned, okay? The mom at the beginning of the story, when we look at what the mom did, said, and thought, the mom originally blamed Charles for being the bad influence on her son, Lori. But by the end, the mom no longer blames Charles for Lori's behavior. Okay? What caused the change? Why did she flip her switch there? What did she learn? And we did this previously. She realized that Lori totally made up Charles. Charles isn't even a real student. Yeah. Okay, so now wait a minute. Now we got to write a theme. And the theme we write about this story, the life lesson the author is trying to teach me and any other reader. I can't mention Lori. I can't mention Charles. I can't mention the mom. I can't mention kindergarten. No details from the text. When you're just doing character traits and character change and before and after and do, say, think, oh yeah, you use text details. But as soon as you go to theme, you keep it more global, more broad. What about life should people, any reader, learn through the errors, the choices, and the lessons of these characters? Okay, so I'm going to go back here now to what the mom learned, okay? And I'm going to step back and say, well, I think the author wants the reader to know what? About people. About people. What might that be? Well, her son was lying. And she didn't know it till the very end. So what is it the author would want us to know? That people sometimes, what did Lori do? Lie. Okay, but that's not a theme. Why? When would someone lie? Why would someone lie? Who, what do they lie about? Take it a little further. People sometimes lie about what? About themselves and others. Yes, that's a possible theme. Okay, remember, there's no one answer. You're not trying to guess the theme. There's lots of possibilities. We could say this in many different ways. Let's use the same story, the same before and after, and let's think about it as people who are parents. The author believes what about parents, about children? That parents should or should not, what? Always believe what their child says. Did we mention Lori? Nope. Did we mention Charles? Nope. Did we mention the mother or kindergarten or the teacher? Nope. Because when you do a theme, you keep it broad. But when you talk about the main idea or the tiny little details you're tracking, oh yeah, you mentioned actual character and story elements, but we're keeping it broad. People shouldn't be so quick to believe their own children. Boom. That is a theme. What we're doing in this lesson is stepping back from what we know about a character. We've really looked at what a character did, what he was like, how he changed, what he learned. But now authors say, hey, reader, what can you learn from this story? What can you learn from this character? What does the author believe about life and about people? And showed us through this characters lesson. See what we're doing? Okay, if you were in Mrs. Smecken's class, here's what I would ask you to do next. I would ask you to go back and look just at Lori in the story Charles. Okay, we already know Lori misbehaved every day in class in kindergarten, but then by the end, he only misbehaved occasionally. We know what he learned, that his teacher will reward him with an apple and make him the helper if he's a good kid. Okay, but that is very specific to this character's change. What I want you to do is write me one sentence themes. I want you to use one of these phrases, opening phrases, and I want you to tell me what you think the author believes about people through Lori's lesson, through what Lori learned, what Lori did. Okay? And so I want you to use this now, just like we did. I don't just want you to write one. I want you to try to write it two different ways. Okay? There's no one answer, and I want you to prove that by writing it at least two other ways. If you can come up with a third way, awesome, do that. But I want you to tell me what's the message, the lesson the author teaches people through this story. Write at least two different sentences, two different themes, okay? And if you can do more than that, go get them. If you were in Mrs. Smecken's class, that's what we'd be doing, but your teacher might have a better idea.